Ever had to do a hard day's labor in his whole goddamn life. Here in the United States, there's no such thing as justice. Let's find out what it says on the Statue of Liberty. What does the plaque on the Statue of Liberty say?
According to BostonFed.org, give me you're tired, you're poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore.
That's right. You're tired. You're poor. Your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. The wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Americans hate homeless people. Americans are only able to make their system seem like it's working by having a whole pool of victims that literally anyone who had a bad day can take their shit out on, and those people are the homeless. You pretend we're all child molesters, we're all rapists, we're all murderers, we're all thieves. When we're harmed, you pretend that we must deserve it. You have already decided our guilt, and you show it. Judge Hill is one of them wretched refuse who should have stayed where he was at. Do you really want somebody as a judge who is trash as a human being? Do you really want somebody who has zero morality whatsoever being your public pretender? The way that I'm treated shows that my guilt is assumed and they're just going through the motions. The fact is, anybody with half a fucking brain would have recognized that there's a fucking problem here and it needs fixed. I've already met Judge Hill. See, I had a stalker here named James Murphy. And when I tried to get help turning in James Murphy, what did I get? Bullshit. Lied to. Dismissed. Disrespected. The judge doesn't give two shits about the conduct of the officers. Doesn't give two shits about the illegal acts committed by those officers or by the 911 operators. When somebody's being abused, 911 needs to do something about it, like take it seriously. I've been running around in circles for 7 years, jumping through endless expensive hoops for government agencies that won't do their fucking job. That includes the courts. That includes predators like Johnathan R. Hill. This man chose to be predatory. He doesn't know a goddamn thing about having to live on practically nothing. Let's ask him how many years he worked construction. Let's ask him how many years he did something actually useful in this fuck country. When's the last time this son of a bitch built anything? See, when we talk about white privilege, we're not talking about homeless people. We're talking about assholes like Judge Hill. Judge Hill didn't give a fuck what was going on with James Murphy. Nope. My predators in this town are law enforcement. Those are my primary predators in this town. Then again, Judge Hill doesn't give a fuck, does he? He doesn't give a fuck if the legal procedures are followed or not. Because I'm not a human being to the son of a bitch. Now, there's a lot of stuff that my public pretender should have found out before we went into court, but she didn't. She didn't care. She cared about talking over me, just like everyone else. She cared about disrespecting me. And that's not okay. The situation with James Murphy, he stalked me all the way here from Hood River. His stalking went on for damn near a year and a half. The cops wouldn't help me to turn him in, and nobody else would either. There were people who were going to, but that's the problem with the cops. People are afraid of the cops because all cops are crooked. I've never met a good cop. There's a lot of women that I try explaining this to. See, this is one of the things that Judge Hill and these women have in common. They're pampered. They don't know what it's really like, and they don't fucking care. They don't want to fucking hear it. They want to get you into the fucking cell so they can get the next guy in, and the guy after that. It's a game of numbers. There's no morality in the man whatsoever. Just like you can't be a public pretender if you have any sort of morality. Judge Hill doesn't care if the cops break the law. Judge Hill doesn't care if the situation is misrepresented. Judge Hill doesn't care if the public pretenders that they're assigning don't do their jobs. He doesn't give two shits because he's not doing his job. Now, when I had to go to court against James Murphy did not show up. And that sucks. Because the evidence I had wasn't civil. These are criminal acts that were committed by James Murphy. Now, it was pretty obvious by the demeanor of the officers as well as Judge Hill that they were going to give it to him. The officers there are already aware that I record. That's why they had Rodriguez come up and talk to me and try to make sure I wasn't recording. Why is that? It's so that people like Judge Hill and people like Matthew D. Lyon And people like Miss Long can commit felony after felony impunity. They're taking your taxpayer dollars, but they're not doing the job. I had to wait over half an hour past when court was supposed to start with James Murphy. And why is that? They wanted to give him an easy victory. Now, one of the things these people who claim that they want to help aren't listening to is the fact that the evidence that I'm trying to show is evidence that prevented me from having an honest court date. Making me go to a police officer who I'm trying to turn in, and making me go to that officer to turn him into himself. That's against the law. Judge Hill knows it. Miss Long knows it. Mr. Lyon knew it. Then again, he's got the perfect last name, don't he? It identifies him right off the bat. He's a liar. Yes, we know he's lying. What do these people all have in common? None of them hear me speak. All of them speak over me. All of them make decisions for me without bothering to find out what the truth is. The judge doesn't hear my words, and he won't. Matthew D. Lyon wasn't going to hear my words either. These people have a position of power that allows them to retaliate against you for speaking up, which, by the way, is another felony. These are felonies. That means I have the right to walk into a courtroom and record it. You commit felonies, that does give me the right to record it. And if you prevent me from recording it or having access to those recordings, you're committing more felonies. Now, what are the chances that Judge Hill is very well aware of this? They're pretty fucking good. The first time he tried pawning me off, yeah, that's right. I tried explaining I've been abused and I've been to these services, including TFCC, and that there are safety issues there, and that those safety issues need to be rectified. Hell, James Murphy didn't show up. I might as well at least say something. But no, Judge Hill didn't give two shits. Knowing that there was a safety issue with TFCC, he pawned me off on a lady at TFCC. He left. He didn't find out what was going on, and that woman talked right over me. Well, what a fucking irresponsible shit that fucking judge is. To knowingly, willingly, and intentionally commit a felony, knowing that he's putting an at-risk adult at further risk by making him go to his fucking predators to turn it in. Yes, that fucking judge knows it's a goddamn felony. But he'd already decided, and we're going to do what Judge Dickhead wants, aren't we? With all due respect, fuck you. You have no respect for the law. You have no respect for the position of power which you hold. You have zero respect for the American people. and zero respect for the poor. What the fuck is wrong with you, Judge Hill? So Judge Hill sent me on a runaround to a bunch of other places that sent me on a runaround. When's the dude gonna fucking listen? He's not. When's my public pretender gonna listen? He's fucking not. She's already shown that. She's already decided that it's okay to commit felonies against her clients because she doesn't want to do her fucking job. Judge Hill, well, he's not that bright of a feller. See, here's the thing through all of this is that as an American, I have the right to face my accusers, and that right has been denied. I have the right to turn in my predators without fear of retaliation by law enforcement. No, I don't have that right, do I? Judge Hill doesn't give a fuck about my rights. He's got a nice house to go home to. He's spent way too many years being unchecked, just like these officers. Meanwhile, the officers here, they already know that none of the other agencies are going to investigate any crimes committed by them. They already know that they got the other law enforcement agencies in their pocket. Because, see, the tactics that they're using, although illegal as fuck, are used by every law enforcement agency in the country. They're not allowed to do it to Donald Trump. No, that would be illegal. Donald Trump has the money for a lawyer. And that's one of the things that Judge Hill fucked up with real big. There's not just one situation of stalking, there are multiple. Meanwhile, I've never been allowed to turn in my predators or my evidence. And until recently, I didn't have anybody who was even gonna try. I had lots of people who promised they were gonna, but they never came through. And you know, still, nobody has come through to help me turn in these predators. The lady who was gonna help me do that, well, she's barely able to make time to go to court. Which sucks, because we shouldn't even have to go to court. But we do, because of retaliation by law enforcement. She doesn't have to go, but I do. We already know from experience that if my public pretender doesn't show up, that can and will be used to harm me, and has been repeatedly. If other people make clerical errors, it's me who is fucking punished. Is this judge going to hear a goddamn word I have to say? No, he's not, because my public pretender isn't going to shit either. If they don't have the time to do their, they need to fucking say so. But will that judge listen? No, he won't. This is the United States. The dude can act with impunity. It's pathetic. Nobody ran against him. You know what else is weird to me? When I'm assaulted and I go to somebody who told me if there's any problems to come to them. And I come to them when I'm assaulted. And that person does nothing. But they want my help because somebody stole a candy bar from the grocery store. They want help busting somebody who stole from the grocery store. Ha. Between your fucking candy bar and me being physically assaulted, I'd say one of those is more important than the other. Now, if the police had not created a safety issue for me, I'd go to the police about abuse. The problem is police create a safety issue for every homeless person. We don't matter as human beings. We're easy to railroad because we don't have the money for a lawyer. So they just press charges on us, false charges, over and over again. Or they force us into a situation where we have to break the law. And by the way, if you're forced into a situation where you have to break the law to protect life and limb, you're allowed. That's right. If you have to vandalize somebody's window because they decide to leave their kid in a hot car in the middle of the summer with the doors and windows rolled up and locked, it's not vandalism anymore, is it? Judge Hill left the room to make me talk to the lady at TFCC. And all she did is talk over me and disrespect me. That's not helping me. Maybe you should stick around a few minutes and make sure they fucking follow through. Asshat. Meanwhile, this guy thinks that he's owed respect. No, you're not. And I'm certainly not going to call the son of a bitch your honor. Do something honorable, you son of a bitch. He's got a pretty fucking smug face, don't he? Does he have to deal with assaults by Wolnez? Does he have to deal with being stalked by James Murphy? Does he have to deal with police who don't want to do their jobs? And places like TFCC and TCCHC who are committing fraud? Medicare and Medicaid fraud. I'm disabled enough they can deny me all my rights in court. But I'm not disabled enough to be allowed the rights of a disabled person. So I don't have the rights of a disabled person or the rights that you have. Which is pathetic. I have more rights on paper. On paper, what Judge Hill is doing is felonious. In reality, no one gives a fuck. On paper, According to what the law says, what Kayla Long did in court is a felony. That's not representing your client. That is harming your client. It's doing so knowingly, willingly, and intentionally. It is neglecting your duties. But you're just a public pretender. You don't give a fuck. Just like the judge, you get to go home at the end of the night. You're not stuck out here with the consequences of your decisions. I am. Is Kayla Long going to sit down and listen so she knows what the fuck is going on? No, she's not. She doesn't care. All public pretenders are lazy pieces of shit. All of them. They might actually try doing their job. If you're a messed out mom of 4, because girls matter more than boys, huh? When you take a look at the situation and you realize that Ted Bollinger and Tim Beeson raped Natalie Bollinger, that she stated those things. She never once accused me of those things, did she? Of course not. I've had to deal with predators like Andrew Wolnez for a lot of years. Because predators don't care. They just want someone to hurt. And anybody that they think they can get away with hurting, they will. Does Mr. Hill give 2 shits? No, he doesn't. Does he care that on my record, on my arrest record, not my permanent record, there's an officer named Waylon Lolatai who assaulted me. And I was charged with assault. Now, why did they assault me? They were trying to frame me for a murder I did not commit. Now, does Dick Hill give a shit? No, he doesn't. He's going to pretend that it's unrelated. If we even get that far. When TFCC crisis team takes part in an assault against me at the hospital, it is not okay to send me back to TFCC. Maybe you should find out if they're doing their fucking jobs before sending people back to them again and again and again for them just to get fucking talked over. What's Judge Hill gonna do if I try telling the truth? He's gonna fucking talk over me. What are the cops gonna do? They're gonna fucking talk over me. What's TFCC gonna do? They're gonna fucking talk over me. No, this dipshit isn't a real judge. He's a rubber stamp for a bunch of fucking criminals. The conduct of the public pretenders shows that there is no justice and will be no justice. The conduct of the officers shows that there is no justice and there will be no justice. The conduct of Judge Hill shows there is no justice and there will be no justice. Is he really the right man for the job if he's not doing the job? If he's letting predators do whatever the fuck they want, he's not doing his job. If he's going to help police officers to get away with committing felonies against at-risk adults, he shouldn't be sitting on any seat of power, let alone being a judge. Does he like being judged back? Let's try putting Judge Hill in my shoes. If Judge Hill was homeless out here on the streets with permanent physical injuries from assaults by police, being treated like a pedophile, a rapist, or a druggie, going to the hospital and getting assaulted for trying to turn in his abusers, literally getting zero police assistance unless I break the law, and then they don't come to assist me, do they? Meanwhile, there's this thing called framing. If you take it out of context, knowingly, willingly, and intentionally, if you as an officer knowingly, willingly, and intentionally omit information or destroy evidence, how am I supposed to trust you? When you talk over the victim, you show that you have no respect for them as a human being. That is what shows your bias. The more you talk over them, the more you show your bias. People keep wanting to make it into a conversation. No, my experience is not a fucking conversation. It's not a fucking debate. You either fucking listen or you don't. And if you don't listen and you want to make an argument or a fucking debate, you are intentionally harming the victim. No matter who you are. All of these predators prey on the color of law, their assumption of your ignorance. And in most cases, they're right. Do poor people work together, do research, and fucking do something about it? Or do they just bitch? Well, here's the thing. They're not bitching. They're trying to tell you what's going on. If they're being abused and you're calling it bitching, you're a piece of shit who deserves to be abused. I don't believe in this turn the other cheek bullshit. It's stupid. No Christian believes that shit. Not one. There isn't one Christian that I know who believes that shit. Not one. Every single Christian I know hides behind their religion. Not one of them has ever shown me that they believe in any sort of a God. Every Christian I've ever known has shown me that they use religion to manipulate others. Not that it matters. I'm an at-risk adult, and there are laws that are supposed to be followed for my protection. Those laws are not followed. They're not followed by Judge Hill. They're not followed by the public pretenders. They're not followed by the police. While they may help somebody out in a house, we are free money. The United States is a disgusting place full of disgusting people. That includes those who look away. Well, I'm glad I found a place that I can set up my phone in this car where it's, at least for the time being, still connected. Now, my public pretenders didn't raise any alarms or suspicion about the fact that multiple jurisdictions were allowed to put their lies in my court dates, and my public pretenders would do nothing to look at the evidence, nothing to requisition the evidence, nothing to get the body cameras, nothing. All they did was drag it out and waste time and resources. All they did was leave me on the street to be abused. When you try to send me to a place where there are safety issues, you are committing a fucking felony. Those issues need to be addressed. And somebody needs to be informed when they go in with me. See, here's the thing. Good intentions don't help. Good intentions don't accomplish shit. Between somebody praying for me and somebody actually looking at evidence with me, the person who I pray can kiss my ass. Go fuck yourself. That's not help. Praying to your fucking delusional friend. I mean, seriously. Not one Christian has ever shown me their God. There isn't a single Christian that I am not willing to call schizophrenic to their face. You believe that talking to an imaginary creature is going to fix your problems. Well, it doesn't. If you need a hole dug down to the main sewer line, you can either pray to God for God to come dig a fucking hole, or you can pick up a goddamn shovel. Only one of those two scenarios works. Getting on that goddamn shovel and pushing it into the ground. That's what gets the fucking work done. God doesn't exist. If your loving God really existed, there would be no rape, no murder, no poverty, no disease. When I was younger, I got to hear a bunch of Christians telling me that God sees everything. Really? So God watched Dominic rape me, huh? Too bad he doesn't have a physical form, because that right there is a felony. God doesn't seem to have much morality, does he? He doesn't have to. He doesn't exist. He's a figment of your imagination. He's a tool for you to manipulate others. Where is Jesus H. Christ, attorney at law? Where's Judge Yahweh? Huh? That's right. Never there when you need him. God sees everything, right? But he never once has shown up in any of our court dates. Not once. When's the last time Jesus took the stand? Did Jesus come in, put his hand on the Bible, swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help him God? When you were raped by your dad, did Jesus show up in court and say, yeah, I watched it? Did God show up and say, yeah, I saw it. I saw it happen? No, he didn't. It's because he's imaginary. He's as imaginary as the concept of having a friend. When you're not good looking and you're not rich. But those are superficial things, aren't they? Well, it turns out you're all superficial. The judge doesn't care how much harm I go through. The judge doesn't care. My predators were allowed from any jurisdiction into my court date, and I wasn't allowed to defend myself against it. Why? Because my public pretenders weren't willing to do their jobs. See, there's a lot of people who were willing to come forward with what they knew. But with everybody that I was having to call by myself telling me I had to call somebody else, then I have to dictate to other people who are claiming they want to help what happened in a phone call that I had to make by myself, while they want to argue about what happened in a phone call that they could have taken part in. They could have made that call with me. But no, they just let people hurt me. They lied to me, swore they cared about me, swore that they loved me, and showed that they didn't. Just like these Christians talking to me about their God, while showing me that they don't believe in their God. They don't believe in decency. When it happens to somebody else, you go for religion and you say, oh, well, you should turn the other cheek. But when it happens to you, you want blood. You want the cops to do something. You want the courts to do something. Your God went flying right out the fucking window. You didn't take your own fucking advice, but you want to shove it on others, you pieces of shit. Then, of course, when somebody wants to turn you in, you say, oh, you can't judge me, only God can judge me. Only God can judge me. And then you don't go to God for help. You go to the police, don't you? You already know that God isn't going to do jack shit. God is not going to show up in court. God is not going to make a police report. In that regard, your God is as fake and imaginary as my friends. Now, don't get me wrong, these people that I thought were my friends actually exist. Them existing isn't some delusion or fantasy. Of course, these people claimed to be my friend, pretended to be my friend. And when it came time to do friend things, what did they do? Hid behind their religion, hid behind their children, even hid behind their own sins. All these things that these Christians claim they don't know how to do. Well, they prove that they know how to do it when they're unhappy, when they want to retaliate against you because they're angry you told the truth. I've never known a good Christian. There's a few people who had me duped for a while. But they showed me their real content of character. They showed me that their religion was just a manipulation tactic to get other people to do what they wanted. I can't make you do the right thing, but I can sure as shit speak up when you don't. Or don't get caught. And your sister's keeper too, and no victim left.